Yeah, we're still good, man.
Good to go.
What's up,
Great.
everybody?
Thank
So this is Moonshine with Shotgun Mulligan podcast. We're sitting here with Tucker Booth, co-author of Lisa Cornwell's new book, Troublemaker. How's it going, man? Glad we got you on.
Going crazy is how it's going. We've been trying to do this now, guys. I thought I had this all figured out. I'm sitting at my son's baseball practice in San Pedro, California, and what do you know? The sound was screwing up. So I'm sitting on the side of the road right now. I'm hoping that I don't get hit by a car while we do this, but thanks for having me.
We appreciate the
Hey,
risk.
Tucker, it's All-Star season, baby. You got to do anything for your kids. All-Star season.
No doubt. And sadly, our Redondo Beach All-Star team just lost last night in their elimination.
Oh, man.
Rest in peace, All-Star season. But, club team never stops. My son, we're rep Grizzlies, South Bay Grizzlies here, always on the field, always playing. So shout out to my boy Max and the Grizzlies and Redondo Beach Little League's All-Star season.
Yeah, and speaking of your son, so how was the U.S. Open, man? Did you all have a good time?
Oh my gosh! So first of all, I gotta give shout outs to Tim K, the caddy, who is the one who pulled the strings to get free tickets, and then even more so to Max Homa. Max Homa, ladies and gentlemen, man of the we didn't know, gave my son and I 2 free tickets. Now I don't know if you know this, but Browns tickets were going for about $400 each. Max, you're a prince. He got us trophy club access. Amazing day. Just such an amazing day. I have criticisms of the course like everybody else, especially as a spectator. A lot of hard angles to see much, a lot of log jams. This course was obviously not designed for a lot of foot traffic from spectators, but we're nitpicking. My son is a huge Ricky fan. Even though he didn't win, we had a blast watching Ricky play. Ricky came out and signed autographs for him afterwards. My son brought a sign. I don't know if you guys saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw that post on Twitter.
He brought a sign that said, after watching the swing, I'm pretty sure Ricky's my real father. And everybody loved it. Ricky's wife was laughing at it. All these people were wanting to take photos with him. And actually the Full Swing producers filmed him. And I signed waivers. So be looking for Max on season 2 of Full Swing. Rocking the Ricky.
Love it.
Starring Max. That's great, man.
Talk about that real quick. I know a lot of people had the criticism of the course, and it was hard for some of it to see on TV. And obviously the criticism too is a lot of the tickets, over half of it, or 3/4 of the tickets, went to members. And I feel like the U.S. Open has typically been for those the tournament of the people, and it just didn't seem like you had that wowness. Talk about that.
Yeah, I read the same thing, and if you're being stereotypical about LA, which it's pretty easy to do, it's a lot of these big willy corporate people that were there. You could feel it. And we go every year to Riviera, to the Genesis Open. Well, I've been doing this with Max for years. And there's way more of a mix at Riv for the Genesis. You have some wealthy people. You have some just everyday Joes. Everybody's kind of milling about together. But this felt like the upper crust of the upper crust. And as you might imagine, most of them were sitting up in like the suites and the baller clubs and just sitting up there eating and drinking and kind of watching from their vantage points. So it didn't have that feel of everybody was down there on the ground. Granted, I'm sure by the end when you saw everybody mobbing the 18th when Wyndham was coming up with Ricky, that started to feel like it. Everybody came out of their suites for that. But yeah, a lot of the day, it felt like even in the final couple of groups, and we pretty much stayed real close to Rory and Scotty and Ricky and Wyndham, it didn't feel like there were people following them around. Now, as I said, the course is a labyrinth. And with all of these, big grandstands put up everywhere, there really is no straight line from one hole to the next. Thank God my son is smarter than me. He took a photo of the map early in the day and was playing Navigator all day. So he helped
Love
me.
it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it didn't feel like there was that major championship juice. I mean, but I feel like part of that had as much to do with the fact that nobody set the course on fire on Sunday. I mean, Wyndham won with an even par score. Rory had how many putts not go in, and Ricky just didn't have it on Sunday. So that made it kind of, a little bit anticlimactic and not taking anything away from Wyndham stoic. But yeah, it didn't feel like anyone was lighting the course on fire, which definitely would have gotten the crowd more fired up. The one thing I do want to say to Wyndham's credit was there was a lot of really nasty heckling going on all day that was aimed at Wyndham. You could tell everybody wanted Ricky and Rory to win, but the drunks were being really awful to Wyndham. And one drunk on 8, when he got in trouble, was yelling out, "I need a double here. I need a double," trying to get in his head. Wyndham ended up just bogeying that hole when he could have made a huge mess of it. Later, people were whistling when he was putting, trying to whistle right on the putt stroke. I'm sure he felt all day like people were indeed trying to unnerve him, and he didn't get unnerved. So I got to give him credit for that, because he had to know everybody was rooting against him more than they were rooting for him all day. So props to Wyndham for the mental toughness.
Yeah, I think his mental toughness came through, because when I was watching on the broadcast, it was just like he was the only one that looked like he wanted to win the golf tournament. I mean, I'm sure you probably felt that when you were there, Tucker, but it was just like he looked unfazed, and a couple of those holes where he had a chance to make double, or especially the one where he hit it in the bunker off. I don't know if that was the same hole. He hit it in the bunker off the tee, laid up, and then he sticks his wedge to, like, what was it, like 2 feet or something? What was that, on 16 or 17? And it's just like, it just bunches of shots like that day. You're thinking that he's going to be out of it. Rory's in the mix, and then he just kept steady. I mean, he didn't play great, but he didn't play bad,
Yeah, and I was there. I was sitting in the stands. That was like one of the few times we sat down was on 16, when it looked like, okay, here's the one chance where he could fall apart and let Rory and Ricky and Scotty back in the door. And you're right. Even though he missed that par putt, he stuck that wedge, just missed the par putt, and instead of making a huge mess of things, bogey, and only backed up a bit. And you could feel like all the pressure was off him as soon as he made that bogey putt. And everybody in the stands was like, well, this thing's over. I mean, we knew it right then. So yeah, there was a lot of mental toughness. And I know everybody's bagging on Rory and Ricky for not closing in this thing, but I'd say the scrutiny is more on Rory McIlroy than it is on Ricky Fowler to me, for all the reasons one would imagine. I mean, Ricky has been clawing his way back from oblivion to back in the top 35 in the world. And we watched him at Genesis. You could see him trending that direction from the round we fought around there. He's playing so much better. So Ricky doesn't have as much to prove in my mind. He's already proven himself, and he proves that he's a good loser too. Coming out and signing autographs for my son. That made my son's night. And if he hadn't come out, it would have disappointed him. Rory didn't come out. And that's what I'm getting at, is I feel like Rory's kind of at this point where 9 years since his last major, even with all of his accomplishments, everybody goes, why do you keep coming up just short? What's the deal, man? And, you can do the golf is hard routine, but we expect Rory McIlroy to be the heir apparent to time. Expected this for a long time, and it looked like it was going to happen. And now, 9 years later, I feel like Brooks Koepka has kind of wrenched that away from him, kind of by proxy, right? I mean, just because he's won 5 now and he won more current majors, and I can't think anybody besides Brooks that could even really be in that discussion at this point, as far as who's gonna kind of maybe make a run at becoming somewhere close to the next Tiger Woods. I don't think anybody's going to be Tiger, but you know what I mean. Be the new dominant guy in majors, and we're not doing it anymore. So I feel like he's got a lot more to kind of answer for than Ricky does.
Right. And just like, for instance, I was watching it with my wife, and I was just losing my mind, because I'm like telling her, Rory has so much talent. Like it's who we thought, like you're saying, was going to be the next, like, not Tiger Woods, but as close as we could get to it. I mean, he has the swing, he has all the tools, and it's just like, yeah, is it a mental block, or like what happens with his game that he can't close? It's just, it's frustrating, to be honest. And what it reminded me about, Tucker, was when my dad and I were watching golf, when I was growing up watching golf and getting into it, is we liked watching Phil, but it was painful when Phil was coming down the stretch in these US Opens, and he was finishing second, third, fourth, fifth, and then he just wasn't coming, and he finally got over the the edge with the Masters, and then he had a great rest of his career so far. But it's just that similar kind of thing just repeating itself. And it's just like, it's the old age history repeating itself. It's frustrating, because he has all the talent in the world, and it's hard for all of us golf fans to realize what's the missing thing. Like, why can't he do it?
Well, you reference Phil, and I guess if we want to give Phil some credit, Phil kind of again rose from the ashes
Right.
when he won the last PGA championship. So Rory still got plenty of time. I mean, and let's face it, he looked really solid in all facets of his game last weekend, except for putting. Right. Everything else, gorgeous. So, Rory's surely one of the greatest drivers of the ball we've ever seen. His irons are pure. His wedge game's great. It's that he kept missing putts, and he missed them every way you could miss them. He missed them short. He missed them left. He missed them right. It was. I'm sure he just felt like he just so baffled by it. But that's it. We know all the old cliches, but he's driving for show and he's putting for dough. So I'm sure he's going back to work with the Stocktons or whoever he's asking for help with his putting game right now. And that was the difference. I mean, Rory cans 2-3 putts in that round that he missed, and he wins. Right. It would not have been hard for him to run off with that if he had just made a few of those. I mean, he had how many birdie putts that he missed? Way too many.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Tucker, kind of going on the golf talk. So I can now see how much of a golf enthusiast you are. So how did you run into Lisa? Like, how did you guys get to know each other, and like what kind of transpired the book and everything like that?
Yeah. So Lisa initially followed me. We had already been aware of one another. I had media credentials back in the day. I used to write for a website called From the Back Tees, which is now no longer in existence. But I had gone and covered the Farmers Open down in La Jolla, and had met her in the media center there. But I was just another kind of journalist dude that she knew. I have a podcast called Rappers Don't Golf, which has had lots of her Golf Channel compatriots on there over the years, including Karen Stupples, Jerry Foltz, Frank Nopolo, and numerous others that she's friends with. So she was aware of me because she had seen my podcast. But she followed me on Twitter, and I followed her back. And this was right in 2020 when she shot out what I call the tweet heard around the world, which was saying, I'm finally contractually bound by my Golf Channel contract anymore. And I'm about to start talking big and loud about all the sexism and toxicity and retaliatory behavior that goes on there. # more to come. And I was like, oh man, you got to come on the podcast, Lisa. I'm
come on now.
Yeah, please come on my podcast. Oh my gosh, we can talk all about it, whatever you want to talk about. And she goes, well, let's set up a phone call. And that's fairly typical to get, like a getting to know you call with some of these folks. And she calls me and she goes, yeah, I'll definitely do the podcast, and not trying to dodge that or anything, but we got bigger things to talk about. And I go, what's that? And she goes, I want you to write my book. I want you to be the co-author on my book. And I go, are you serious? And she goes, well, yeah, I've read some of your stuff online. And she referenced a piece. If you all are out there, you can find it. It's about Michael J. Whalen, who's my great friend and mentor, and who was the senior executive producer, the Michelangelo, if you will, of the Golf Channel, who built the whole thing. And that piece is called I Built a Masterpiece, and Then I Fell Apart, the Michael J. Whalen story. That was something I wrote for over a year with Mike. It's a 70-pager. It came out and almost instantly went viral through the whole sports and golf world. And Lisa had read this piece and said, as soon as I started reading it, I got goosebumps. And I said, you're the guy. You're the guy that I want to write this with. So first of all, thank you, Michael Whalen, as always, for the fact that you gave me this opportunity to write your story. And it's a really hard story to write. I mean, he struggles with bipolar disorder. There was suicide attempts, drug and alcohol battles. I mean, this is a tough story. But Lisa said, if you can write his story, you can write mine. And that was in 2020. And guys, this is right during the pandemic. It took 3 years for this book to go from concept to sold to on the shelves. So it was not an easy go, even after we started working together. Obviously, it's really emotional stuff that she's talking about and dealing with. As she said to me, she's told me more personal stuff than she's told just about anybody else in her entire life, including members of her family. So I got to hear everything. We really through a lot together. And the book is more than just about grinding axes with Golf Channel. It's about being a child prodigy. For those that don't know, Lisa Cornwell rose to number 2 in the world for girls as a junior golfer. She was a childhood friend of Tiger Woods through the USJGA. She won 4 amateur championships in Arkansas in her teens. She was an amazing golfer, and everybody thought she was going to go on to be a major champion and a superstar. And she talks about the burn that she had with golf in her early 20s. and pretty much walked away from the game.